the reason you feel drained after most social gatherings isn't because you're an introvert, but because you've been performing a version of yourself that you think others will accept. What if that persistent loneliness you feel, even when surrounded by people, isn't about not fitting in, but about never showing up as who you actually are? In the last episode, we explored how healthy partnerships require staying true to yourself while choosing connection with another person. Today, we're expanding that challenge to friendships and community, where the stakes feel lower, but the performance pressure is often higher. Because now you're not just managing one relationship, but navigating multiple personalities, group dynamics, and unspoken social rules. The differentiated connection we practice in partnerships, maintaining your authentic self while building genuine intimacy, becomes exponentially more complex in social settings. Unlike in romantic relationships, such as partnerships and marriage, where you can work through conflicts privately, in friendships and community, there's often an audience. The fear of social rejection can drive us to abandon our authentic selves in ways we never accept in our closest relationships. I'm Dr. Cara. Here's what I've observed about modern friendship and community involvement. Most people are so terrified of being rejected for who they really are that they exhaust themselves performing who they think they should be, and then wonder why they feel lonely, even in a room full of friends. This creates what I call social debt. The accumulated exhaustion from constant performance, the resentment from giving more than you receive, and the deep loneliness that persists even when your calendar is full. Just like financial debt, social debt compounds over time. The interest payments show up as Sunday anxiety before social events, the need for recovery time after gatherings, and the growing sense that nobody really knows you. You might find yourself saying yes to every social invitation, even when you're depleted, then feeling resentful about your packed schedule. You avoid any topic that might create conflict, keeping your friendships pleasant but shallow. You're always the one organizing, supporting, giving advice, but you struggle to ask for help when you need it. The underlying pattern is the same as in other relationships. You're trying to control others' perception of you instead of trusting that the right people will appreciate who you really are. Here's the counterintuitive truth. Trying to be everything to everyone ensures you'll be nothing meaningful to anyone. Let me share a friendship experience that taught me the physical and emotional cost of social debt. A few years ago, I was part of a professional group that met monthly. On paper, it was everything I thought I wanted. Accomplished individuals supporting each other's success. Then I found myself literally dreading these gatherings, even though I couldn't understand why. I would spend hours before each meeting prepping, not just professionally, but emotionally. I'd craft stories that made me seem successful, but relatable. Struggling, but not needy. Confident, but not intimidating. I was essentially writing a character to perform rather than just showing up myself. The social debt was accumulating rapidly. I'd arrive home after these meetings completely drained, needing hours to recover. My shoulders would be tight from holding tension I didn't even realize I was carrying. I'd replay conversations wondering if I said the right things, shared too much, or not enough. One particular meeting, we were discussing a work-life balance. Everyone was sharing their strategies and wins. When my turn came, I launched into my prepared response about boundary setting success and time management techniques. Then something unexpected happened. One woman, I'll call her Marie, interrupted gently. "Cara," she said, "that all sounds great, but how are you really doing? You look exhausted, and every time you talk about balance, your shoulders get tense." Her observation completely stopped me. In that moment, I felt the full weight of the social debt I had accumulated. I was so busy performing, having it all together, that I couldn't access what I really needed, which was connection, support, and the relief of being seen. I had a choice: continue the expensive performance or risk genuine connection. Receive. I noticed my impulse to deflect with humor or pivot to asking about others. But I also noted Marie's genuine care and possibility for real connection that I had been craving. Perceive. I realized my performance wasn't protecting me from judgment. It was preventing me from the very support I desperately needed. I was paying compound interest on social debt by giving what I thought people wanted instead of what I actually had to offer. Respond. I took a breath and made a different choice. Honestly, I'm struggling. I'm questioning whether I'm on the right path professionally. I feel like I should have answers I don't have. I'm tired of pretending I figured this balance thing out when most days I feel like I'm barely keeping up. What happened next was transformational. Instead of judgment or uncomfortable silence, the room shifted. The other individuals began sharing their real struggles. Marie talked about her own career doubts. Another woman admitted she had been considering leaving her dream job because it was destroying her health. For the first time in months, I left that meeting energized instead of depleted, not because anything had been solved, but because I had been seen. The social debt didn't just stop accumulating. It began to pay dividends in a form of genuine connections and authentic belonging. This experience taught me how the 3 pillars of my framework for connected leadership create the foundation for authentic belonging. Recognizing value and knowing your worth. This means understanding that your worth isn't determined by how well you perform in social situations. When you know your inherent value, you stop seeking validation through people pleasing. You realize that your authentic self, including your struggles, your questions, your unique perspective, is exactly what some people need to hear. Embodying grace. Know your truth. This means releasing the perfectionism that keeps your friendship surface level. Grace allows you to show up as imperfectly human, which gives others the permission to do the same. You stop trying to be the friend who has no problems and start being the friend who handles problems with wisdom and vulnerability. Conquering control, know when to pivot, means releasing your grip on others' responses to your authentic self. You can't control whether someone will accept the real you, but you can control whether you give them the opportunity. The pivot is from trying to manage their perception to trusting that authentic connection is worth the risk of authentic rejection. The receive, perceive, and respond methodology becomes your resource for staying centered in social dynamics. Receive means noticing what's actually happening in these social moments rather than what you think should be happening. Are you connecting or performing? What is your body telling you about this interaction? Perceive means examining your motivations and patterns, but also extending curiosity and understanding towards others before drawing conclusions about their behavior. Are you trying to be liked or are you trying to connect? Are you giving from overflow or from emptiness? What story are you telling yourself about what these people need from you? Here's a crucial aspect of perception in social situations. Before you land on conclusions about someone else's behavior, consider what you know about their character. That friend who seems distant might not be rejecting you. They could be processing personal stress. The colleague who interrupted you might not be dismissive. They could be excited about the conversation. The family member who seems critical might not be attacking you. They could be expressing care in the only way they know how. This doesn't mean making excuses for consistently harmful behavior. It means giving people the benefit of the doubt based on their track record of character, especially in ambiguous situations where you could interpret their actions multiple ways. Respond means taking action from your secure belonging rather than social anxiety. Sometimes this means sharing something real. Sometimes it means setting a boundary. Sometimes it means gracefully stepping away from dynamics that don't serve authentic connection. Let me give you a scenario that accumulates massive social debt. Friend group gossip. Someone in your social circle is complaining about another friend, sharing personal details and looking for allies in their grievance. The social debt approach is to participate because you don't want to seem judgmental or be excluded from the inner circle. You may nod along, maybe add a comment, and then feel uncomfortable about betraying trust. Or you try to stay neutral by listening to everyone's complaint, then feel exhausted from managing all these emotional dynamics that you didn't create. What if you applied secure belonging instead? Receive. You notice the discomfort with the gossip, your genuine care for all people involved, and the social pressure to choose sides. You also acknowledge your fear of being excluded if you don't participate. Perceive. You want to examine what values are at stake, but you also want to consider what you know about the people involved. Is the person sharing the gossip someone who typically shows good judgment, or are they going through a difficult time that might be affecting their choices? Is this person being discussed someone whose character you know well enough to weigh against these complaints? Participating in gossip violates your integrity, even if it feels socially safer. You realize that managing everyone else's emotions isn't actually helping anyone. It's just accumulating social debt that will eventually compound. This deeper perception helps you respond from wisdom rather than immediate social pressure. You may realize the gossip doesn't align with what you know to be true about someone's character, or you might recognize that the person sharing is acting out of pain rather than malice. Respond. You make a choice aligned with your values. I care about both of you, but I'm not comfortable discussing this here without her here. Have you talked to her directly about your concerns? This response honors your relationship while maintaining your integrity. It might feel risky in the moment, but it creates the possibility for real solution rather than continued drama. More importantly, it signals to others that you're someone who can be trusted, which attracts the kind of friendships worth having. Here's what I want you to practice this week: the authentic showing up. Check in before social situations. This practice helps you connect with your secure belonging before engaging with others. Pre-social receive. Before walking into any social situation, take a moment to notice your current energy level, your emotional state, and what you're genuinely hoping for from this interaction. Are you depleted and needing a gentle connection? Energized and wanting to contribute? Processing something and needing support? Pre-social perceive. Ask yourself these 3 questions. What version of myself am I tempted to perform here? What am I afraid will happen if I show up authentically? What do I actually have to offer from my genuine self right now? Pre-social respond. Set one specific intention for authentic engagement. This might be, I want to listen more than I perform today. Or, I want to share what's really going on with me. Or, I want to contribute my perspective even if it's different from the group consensus. During the social interaction, check in periodically. Am I connecting or performing right now? If you notice accumulating social debt through performance, take a breath and make one small adjustment towards authenticity. Remember, the goal isn't perfect execution. It's building awareness of when you're genuinely connecting versus when you're managing others' perception of you. Here's what I learned about the difference between people-pleasing and genuine contribution. People-pleasing comes from social debt and creates resentment. Genuine contribution comes from secure belonging and creates connection. When you're people-pleasing, you're giving what you think others want, rather than what you authentically have to offer. When you're genuinely contributing, you're sharing from your strengths and your values, which energizes both you and others. This means examining your motivations in friendships and community involvement. Are you always organizing gatherings because you love bridging people together, or because you're afraid they won't happen without you? Are you constantly available for advice because you have wisdom to share, or because you need to feel needed? The most profound shift happens when you realize your authentic self, including your limitations, your boundaries, your unique perspective, even your struggles, is exactly what some people need. The woman who interrupted my performance that day didn't need my strategies for work-life balance. She needed to see someone else struggling with the same challenges she was facing. Your willingness to be imperfectly human gives others permission to drop their own performances. This is how authentic belonging spreads. One person's courage to be real creates safety for others to do the same. When you shift from social debt to secure belonging, several transformative things happen. You stop feeling drained after social interactions because you're not maintaining exhausting performances. You start attracting people who appreciate who you actually are rather than who you think you should be. Your friendships deepen because they're based on genuine connection rather than mutual performance management. You develop the courage to have real conversations instead of pleasant small talk. You become more generous with your authentic gifts and more honest about your limitations. You stop trying to fix other people's problems or manage their emotions because you're focused on your own genuine contribution. Most importantly, you create the very belonging that you have been seeking. Your willingness to be authentically imperfect invites others to drop their performance too. The effect is powerful. One person's secure belonging gives others permission to stop accumulating their own social debt. You develop what I call magnetic authenticity, the ability to attract your actual people while gracefully repelling those who need you to be someone else. This isn't about being selfish or inconsiderate. It's about being so clear about who you are that the right connections become obvious. The self-leadership skills you've been developing, conscious choices, emotional regulation, authentic presence, and differentiated connection, become the foundation for secure belonging in community. The quality of your friendships is directly related to the quality of connection you have with yourself. Next episode, we're exploring how these principles apply to professional life, where the performance pressure can feel even more intense because your livelihood feels connected to others' perceptions. How do you maintain your values when workplace culture pressures you to compromise? How do you lead by example without formal authority? I'll share what I've learned about bringing your whole self to work without sacrificing your effectiveness. And don't forget, this week, practice the authentic showing up check-in before one social situation. Notice the difference between connecting and performing, and make one small adjustment towards genuine belonging rather than social debt accumulation. Here's what I'm curious about. What social situation most tempts you to perform rather than to connect? What are you afraid will happen if you show up as who you really are? Share in the comments, because recognizing these patterns is the first step to transforming them. Remember, the people who belong in your life will appreciate your authentic self. The rest weren't your people anyway. So stop bankrupting yourself trying to be everything to everyone and start investing in the connections that actually matter.